Welcome to Lesson 9b, Thermodynamics of Rayleigh Flow. In this lesson, we'll review the equations of thermodynamics that are applicable to Rayleigh flow, and we'll discuss relationships between entropy, heat transfer, and irreversibilities. And I'll talk about what I call a strange zone on the Rayleigh curve, and then I'll show some practical applications of Rayleigh flow. First, a quick summary of our equations. We have conservation of mass, the linear momentum equation, and conservation of energy. And I show two different right-hand sides here. We also need some thermodynamics equations. For example, one of our TDS equations was S2 minus S1 equals Cp natural log of T2 over T1 minus gas constant R natural log of P2 over P1. I'll call that equation 4. We also use the ideal gas equation of state, P equal rho RT, which for our problem, which is a control volume from 1 to 2, where we have flow in a duct with heat transfer, this ideal gas law can be written as P1 over rho 1 T1 equal P2 over rho 2 T2, and I'll call that equation 5, where we are continuing the numbering from the previous lesson. This was equation 1, 2, and 3a and 3b. Now let's do a quick thermo review of entropy, which is often misunderstood by students. The fundamental definition of specific entropy is ds, a differential change in specific entropy, equal delta Q reversible divided by T, where this implies a small amount of heat that is added reversibly into the fluid. So if we add heat, ds is positive since the right-hand side is positive, and so S goes up. And that's true even if the process is reversible. If we remove heat reversibly so that delta Q reversible is less than 0, entropy decreases. A lot of students think that entropy always increases, but if you take heat away, even for a reversible process, entropy does go down. Practically, however, nothing is really reversible, so we write ds equal delta Q over T plus ds irreversible, where this delta Q is not necessarily reversible, and it's the irreversible part of ds that's always greater than 0, or in the limit greater than or equal to 0 if there are no irreversibilities. In this equation, this is the actual heat added, which may not be reversible, and this is the change in entropy due to irreversibilities. So this ds must always be greater than or equal to delta Q over T. In Rayleigh flow, we neglect any irreversibilities, like irreversible heat transfer, friction, etc. So the bottom line is that S goes up when the heat added is positive. We add heat and specific entropy goes up. And that's true whether we neglect irreversibilities or not. And S goes down when Q is negative. But that's true only if irreversibilities are small or negligible compared to the heat that's taken away. So keep this in mind as we continue our Rayleigh flow discussion. Now let's look at the Rayleigh curve again. I'll typically use a TS diagram rather than a Mollier diagram, but the shape of the curve will be the same as we discussed previously. The curve looks something like this, where we have a subsonic and a supersonic branch. Mach number is 1 at this maximum entropy state. And because of this, if we add heat, entropy must increase. This is true if we start with subsonic flow, state 1, and we add heat. We must move along this curve to some other state 2, which can be anywhere along this curve as we add heat and S increases. I'll call this 1 sub and this one 1 super, and this is true also for supersonic flow. If 1 is supersonic and we add heat, we still must move in the direction of increasing S to some other state 2 along the curve. In terms of Mach number, M1 is less than 1, and M increases as we move along the curve. We reach some T max here, and then the temperature starts falling a little bit until we reach Mach number 1. And I emphasize here that we're talking about heat addition. For heat addition, we must always move to the right, never to the left.
Sir, is that a political statement?
Well, Sean, I didn't intend it to be, but you can take it that way if you wish. For the supersonic case, m1 is greater than 1, so m decreases as we add heat. In both cases, Mach number approaches 1 as we add more heat. Now think about this. If we start subsonic at 1 and we keep adding more and more heat, we eventually reach Mach number 1. But if we keep adding heat, we can't go supersonic because then S would be decreasing. Similarly, if we start supersonically and add heat, we go along this curve until we reach Mach number 1. But Mach number can't go subsonic because, again, you'd be decreasing specific entropy. In other words, subsonic flow at 1 cannot become supersonic at our state 2, and supersonic flow at 1 cannot become subsonic at 2. Thermodynamics prohibits us from decreasing S when we add heat. Let me mention something that I call the strange zone, which is my notation. The strange zone is this region of the Rayleigh curve. It's strange because we add heat, but the temperature drops. I mentioned this to my wife one time and she said she can't believe it.
I don't believe it neither. How can you add heat but temperature go down? That don't make no sense.
Well, Dud, it is true, and the way I'll explain it is that if you recall equation 3b, the energy equation was Q equals Cp, T2 minus T1, plus V2 squared minus V1 squared over 2. It turns out that in the strange zone, V2 increases rapidly as the Mach number approaches sonic conditions, and V1 is just a constant, so this term is always positive. And we're talking about adding heat, so this term is also positive. But that's still possible whether this term is positive or negative. If V2 is sufficiently larger than V1 and increases rapidly, this term can dominate this term, and this term can actually be negative. In other words, T2 is less than T1 while still keeping Q positive. So T2 can be less than T1 if V2 increases fast enough. In our energy equation, you could think of it this way. We have a positive term, a very big positive term, and a negative term. This occurs only in the strange region. I know it's hard to swallow, but that's what happens. But I also mentioned that the strange region is a very, very small portion of the Rayleigh curve. I want to briefly mention the geometry of Rayleigh flow. There are two types: external heat transfer, which is the case we've been sketching, where heat comes in from the outside. For example, in a heat exchanger, where the fluid out here is very hot compared to the gas flowing in the tube. I drew this with one location of heat transfer, but it can also be distributed over some length of the pipe. The length is irrelevant since we're neglecting friction, but in real life, this needs to be a fairly short tube where friction starts to be important. The second type is internal heat transfer. This would be the case where instead of heat coming from the outside, you have some kind of a flame holder with the flame due to combustion. So there is a Q dot coming into the control volume, but not from these walls. The walls can be insulated, in fact, but heat comes from combustion. Again, the length is irrelevant, and mathematically, in our Rayleigh flow analysis, it doesn't matter how the heat comes in. The equations are all the same. What about Rayleigh flow with cooling? Well, obviously you can't get cooling from a flame. I suppose you could have some kind of cold object inside here to give you some cooling, but typically we're talking about Q dot going out of the tube into the surroundings. In other words, Q dot is negative, where heat goes out between 1 and 2. Let's sketch the TS diagram and the Rayleigh curve for that case, namely Rayleigh flow with Q dot less than 0, or cooling. Again, we have a subsonic and a supersonic branch with m equal 1 at maximum entropy. If we start anywhere on this subsonic branch and remove heat, Q dot less than 0, we'll now move along the curve such that S goes down and Mach number goes down as we remove more heat. I'll call that 1 sub like I did before. If we start on the supersonic branch, at 1 super and we remove heat, again, entropy goes down, so S goes down, and in this case, Mach number must increase. It's the exact opposite of what we had with heat added. And these don't have a sonic limit like we talked about with adding heat. I'll finish off this lesson with some pictures of practical applications of Rayleigh flow. First, let's talk about gas heat exchangers. We have a tube with a gas flowing through it with heat coming in or out. It can be positive or negative. Now here's a case with a sleeve around it, or an annulus. So instead of the heat coming from outside, it's coming from this annulus into the inner tube. Again, these tubes can't be too long or friction will become important, and Rayleigh flow won't do a great job of approximating this flow. Here's one that was set up with a transparent annulus so they could do some experimentation on this flow. And here's a cross-flow heat exchanger where the flow comes up through the heat exchanger, and you can have heating or cooling depending on the temperature difference between the fluid flowing up and the gas going through these tubes. All of these are examples of external heat transfer, since the heat is coming into the tube or going out of the tube from the outside. Here's some infrared pictures of steam pipes. Here's some insulation, and in this elbow where it's not insulated, there's a significant heat loss through this bare pipe into the room. So heat is going out. Here's another case where heat is going out when there's no insulation on this portion of pipe. Here are some examples of internal heat transfer, where Rayleigh flow can be a good approximation in this combustion chamber, also called a combustor. And you can see the flame here. Heat is being added because of a chemical reaction and a flame, rather than heat coming in from the outside. Here's a close-up cutout of an actual combustion chamber. And it's not very long, so that friction is fairly negligible compared to heat transfer in this flow. Here's a cool picture looking into the flame from downstream. You'd be looking from up here and watching the flame come at you. Another example is afterburners in a jet engine. This is a crude sketch, but there's flow from the engine, and at the exit region of the engine, there's some fuel nozzles that spray jet fuel into the back end of the engine, and these are called flame holders to keep the flame from getting snuffed out by the high-speed flow. And sometimes the flame keeps burning even outside the engine. As you can see in these pictures, you may recall shock diamonds that we've discussed previously. This provides a lot of thrust, but it uses an awful lot of fuel too. So we typically find this only on fighter jets. In the next lesson, we'll talk in more detail about what happens when the Mach number goes to 1 at the exit. We call that choked Rayleigh flow. And then after that, we'll look at the equations and set up a procedure to solve Rayleigh flow problems. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos. 1, 2, 3.